Hey, I'm Weilyn.
And I'm Allie. Welcome back to the Entrepreneurs Podcast, the podcast for and by women entrepreneurs. Every week, we share insightful and inspiring conversations with women entrepreneurs from around the world. To check out our past episodes and be notified in our future ones, subscribe to us on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on now.
Today we're chatting with Shannon, CEO and leadership team coach, best-selling business author, speaker, and serial entrepreneur.
Get ready as we talk with Shannon about her entrepreneurial journey and her interesting experience with coaching founders and CEOs.
Hello and welcome back to the Entrepreneurs Podcast. We are so excited to be welcoming Shannon onto the podcast today. How are you doing?
Great, thank you.
Super excited to have you on to chat about everything from the BHAG way, your entrepreneurial journey, and just all a bunch of really fun stuff we're excited to chat about today. But before we get started, we always start off our podcast by asking our guests, what excites you when you wake up in the morning?
Well, that's a great question. The thing that excites me when I wake up in the morning is the opportunity I get to work with CEOs and leaders who want to grow. And that sounds like ridiculous, but they want to grow. They actually want to figure out how to do it with ease, speed, and confidence. And it's not just themselves, it's their team, it's their business. I can go on and on and on. That's why I get up every day.
I absolutely love it. And to give you a little bit of context, Shannon has actually spent over 25 years building, iterating, and innovating to what we now know as Metronomics, a system utilized by hundreds of coaches and companies of all sizes around the world. She's also the author of best-selling business books and is the founder and CEO of Metronome United, alongside just hundreds and hundreds of amazing accolades down her LinkedIn list. I know we shortened it a lot, but a question we'd love to ask our guests after, just like learning more about their bio is, what's something that most people don't know about you?
Oh, that's a good one. So most people wouldn't know. Well, actually, some people would, but most people wouldn't know. I'm hugely passionate about skiing. I live in Whistler, British Columbia, but I consider myself still a ski bum. But as a ski bum, there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a great thing. You got to chase the winters. But growing up, myself, businesses in Whistler, British Columbia, in order to fund my first company and to make it all work, I ski instructor and coach. Most people know that. Okay, great. I worked in a lot of bars. Yes, check. Who hasn't done that? And then the last thing that most people don't know is I drove a taxi. I drove a taxi 2 nights a week in Whistler, and it was before buses existed. And it was so fun. It was so fun.
I can only imagine. Tell me a crazy story of someone coming to the taxi, a conversation, maybe someone who had a little bit too much to drink on the slopes that night.
Well, there's so many, but one that stands out is really leveraging driving a taxi and teaching skiing at the same time, which is, they get into your taxi, you have a chat with them, you're talking, where you're from, all those things. And the most interesting thing is, they're like, hey, we're looking for a ski instructor for the next 3 days. Do you know of anyone?
Do I know of anyone?
I think I do. And so I would win, and if you were requested for a lesson, you made 3 times the amount. So it was it turned into a really nice complementary business between the two, and driving a taxi 2 nights a week and teaching skiing some of the other days of that week. So yeah, it was super great. And then, the funny thing is that's what you do to make ends meet while you're building your first company.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, I love it. The side hustle. I love it. I love it.
Lots of side hustle in Whistler.
Absolutely. That's such a fun place to be around as well, because everyone has like a lot of different passions. People are really outdoors, have hobbies to talk about. I think that's super, super cool. Definitely need to make it to Whistler sometime soon in the pandemic era. But for now, I'd love to dive into our first kind of general topic of the day, which are traits and generalities we see around founders and CEOs. You're quite lucky to be working with a bunch of different founders and CEOs around the world in different industries, geographies, sectors, points in their career, education. So I'm sure you've noticed some common themes and stuff. But I would say the first thing I would love to just get off the bat is, what is the biggest misconception you think people have about founders and CEOs?
Of being one or of them?
Ooh, what's more
Oh.
interesting?
I think maybe of being one. Yeah, because here's the thing, and I can probably relate this to myself and many others, actually, being a founder, CEO of a tech company in 1995, like that's an eternity ago. But it's no different than, someone founding a business in 2022. The one thing is the founder has solved a problem, right? And it could be founders have solved a problem. Okay, awesome. They've solved it. They either have tech or something that is like, just like, this is my baby. It is so good, right? I solved the problem. Do you want to see my baby? Right? So, yep. The other thing is that they're passionate about solving the problem. They have a good vision forward of what that's going to be. What is the outcome of them solving the problem? So I think that's in people's hearts. And when you set out, you have the courage to stand up and go, I'm going to solve this. You find a team to solve it. The one thing, and I had this as well, is most have that passion, that grit. I'm going to do what it takes to get it done. I'm going to figure it out. But that's not all you need. Like, you definitely need that. But we were sort of fooled that way too. We had patented technology. Our technology was amazing. We solved a problem, but there was no market. We didn't even know if anybody really cared if we solved the problem. Now that sounds ridiculous, but it happens more often than we think. We solve a problem that we see, not really knowing if there's, what's the size of the market? Do they see it? Do they care about it? And quite frankly, the biggest thing I think as a founder is, we love, my background's technology too. I have a computer science degree, a master's in computer science. I have a business degree, okay. But the thing that eluded, we created great technology, but we didn't do the work on the business side of it, right? We didn't do that work. And so as founders, we think the grit, the commitment, the passion is going to get it to where it needs to be. And quite frankly, so many great ideas, we know it, so many great ideas don't get out there. But and it's partly why I do what I do every day, is to actually take those founders, those leaders, people who have had great ideas, but they haven't had the success of getting it out to grow up and serve the market, whatever that might be, is the framework to do it, right? In a very systematic way, repeatable way, rather than not. And so founders, they're gritty, they're passionate, they solve problems, they have the courage. But not all, and I include myself in there, I went to business school, I went to tech school, it wasn't like, snap, I know how to do this on the business side. We don't get taught that, unfortunately.
So how do you find that special sauce? So it seems like everyone, like an entrepreneur, I'm thinking it's like a pizza, right? Like you can have a great base, you can have some great sauce, you can have some great cheese, but what's the special sauce? I feel like you have done a lot of work working with companies and working with founders in kind of developing unique special sauces. But is there kind of a common theme behind them? And kind of what was your process in creating that?
Yeah, within our own organization, I'm going to start there and then explain why it works for almost anyone, right? I mean, that's the most amazing thing, is that for us, we put in the first 4 years in our organization, finding a way to raise money, to get people excited, a small group excited about what we did, get it in the market. We did all that. We worked really hard, many hours, long days, everything you expect when you start a company. But then you get to a point where it's about 4 years in, and we have this great opportunity, global opportunity. We just got funded, 20-30 million of funding came in at that time. And it's like, how are we ever going to, what got us here isn't going to get us there, right? And so we've done some of the right things at this point. We have a long-term goal, our 10 to 30 year goal. We have a 1 year plan. We have a good team. but it was really hard to drive the alignment. And so one of the things that I'm known for now, but we thought everybody had one, and we're the ones that missed whatever the story was whenever it came out, is having a midterm goal. And it sounds silly. A lot of people will do a 10 to 30 year goal, but not as many as you think. You know, Jim Collins' big, hairy, audacious goal is 10 to 30 years out there. We did that. We were trying to follow best practice. We had our 1 year annual plan presented to the board, all that great stuff. And then we had this 5 year super wild ass guess, right? That was our midterm. And it was so super wild ass that nobody believed it. Nobody connected with it. No one committed to it. And so we were like, let's bring it a bit closer. Let's create a 3 year highly achievable goal. That's the 3HAG. Let's create that. Let's make sure that there's a line in the sand drawn, meaning like this is where we're going to be 3 years from now. And then once we do that, let's take a step back and go, like, we're here and we want to go there. What is the path that we think right now that we can lay out for 12 quarters? It's only 12 quarters. Now, I can tell you when we did that, I was part of a CEO roundtable, sort of like a YPO forum, but it was for tech CEOs. And I was telling my group, yeah, so here's what we did. And I'm going to share that with my board of directors. And they basically said, you're going to get fired. You're going to get fired next year because you're not going to actually be able to achieve that. I said, no, it's highly achievable. They're like, no, you're going to get fired. Like that's not going to work. And so they're pretty adamant about that. But we had no choice. We were like, we really have to get better at this. And so we actually wrote down our 3 year highly achievable goal. We did our 1 year plan. But the difference is we actually spent the time working through our strategy. A strategy is a unique and valuable position. We get to create it, and we get to choose the set of differentiating actions, right? A strategy is making some decisions, in light of the environment we're playing in and what we have to offer for the core customer who's going to buy it at a profit. So we spent time doing that. So we were like, we're good. We're not 100% confident, but we're better than we were having a 5 year. And so we put that in place. And then I realized, I thought, well, my CEO roundtable doesn't do it, but I'm sure others do it. They must, right? So we carried on as a leadership team. We're a global company, leadership team building this out. What we learned is that no, not everybody does that. Actually, probably less than who had a big, hairy, audacious goal. But the thing that I have learned about the secret sauce of this, the thing that unlocked it, was having that path written down, collaborated, and talked about. But not only that, it was the commitment to our own internal behavior, the team habits that we were committing to make sure that every day, week, month, quarter, we were going to figure out, how's the bus doing? Are we getting closer? Do we need to make a right at the next stop sign or a left? And we committed our behavior. And that sounds like a bit of a weird answer, quite honestly. That's the secret, team habits and putting a 3 year goal out there. But what we've learned is that, we did this 4 times in the teams that I worked with, 2 of my own companies and 2 other companies that acquired the companies we were a part of. And then I got called to coach a company. And, I want to finish this off because if people are listening in and going, a 3HAG, really? That's the secret sauce? It's the 3HAG connected to the team, right? The team connects to it. It's not just dollars. It's the things that flow through your business that you must make happen in order to make money, to the plan. And when I went into the first company, I said, look, I've never coached a company before. I don't know if this will work for you and your team. And they're like, well, we just watched you do it, 4 times in a period of time that we're still slogging along in our business with, not much success. And I said, well, okay, if you're willing, I'm willing. And so we jumped in and, they had the same, they had great success like we did, got them out the other side. But the interesting thing is that the 3HAG is just by writing a goal down by yourself isn't the secret. It's writing it down with your team. because now the team has committed to it. And because it's so close, the team, as soon as you leave that meeting, when you do that work, the team is like already walking out the door going, okay, so here's how I think we're going to get there. Because at the end of the day, how we grow up a company is the key. It's not the what. What do we do? It's the how we do it. And so the 3HAG's been my secret sauce, even when I didn't know it was the secret sauce. We totally fell into it.
I absolutely love that. I love how you shared how it's not just about you writing those goals down kind of like in your secret diary. It's about like putting it out to the world, almost leaning into that vulnerability, right? Like being a vulnerable leader. Yeah. I love that. But I think before we go any further, for those who don't know what a BHAG or a 3HAG is, firstly, I'd love for you to define that. And secondly, what makes a good 3HAG?
Oh, that's a great question. So a BHAG is a big, hairy, audacious goal coined by Jim Collins. And it's putting out there your 10 to 30 year goal as a company. Now, when you're a small company or even a large company, I hear it all the time. Most people go 10 to 30 years. Like, hopefully I'm not here in 10 to 30 years. And it's not about that. It's really about what is the opportunity for us to grow what we have? Where can we end up? We would never get on a bus with, let's say, 100 people. Say we have this convoy of buses. We'd never just get on and go, anyone know where we're going? Right? So the BHAG lays out where we're going. Where do we want to end up? What's our end goal? It's 10 to 30 years away. Hairy audacious is it big enough, right? What impact are we going to make? There are 4 types of BHAGs, by the way. And most people would argue that a goal must have a measure in it. Well, I tried every one of those BHAGs with my team. And of course, I did the one that works the best last, right? Which is the one that has no numbers in it. My huge advice is write your BHAG down with no numbers. When you have numbers in it, everybody focuses on the number. And it becomes a very negative thing. There's no way we can get to 2 million, whatever it is, right? We can't. We're doing 10 today. And it's just this negative thing. So by removing the numbers and going, where, like, can you paint the picture of where we're going to end up? Right? That's what we want to do with a BHAG. Now, the 3HAG is a 3-year highly achievable goal. And why it exists is because it's the stepping stone to get to your BHAG. So people can go, oh yeah, that's so far away. I want to go there. I believe in it. I want to go there. They don't even know which way to turn at the stop sign. So if we can put the stepping stone, that interim step in place with our teams to go, yeah, we're going there. If we're going there in 3 years' time, where do we have to get to? That's what the 3HAG's all about. And it brings together strategy and execution. And your 3-year highly achievable goal, we do want numbers. We do want to be specific, both fiscal, so, gross rev, I like profit, but profit's a made up number. I really like cash. Right? Cash, you put it in a wheelbarrow, you walk it away, cash. It's all about cash. And so, you're going to lay out that cash number, and then you're going to lay out like the widgets. Widgets, a term that we came up with. And we came up with because widgets are the things that flow through your business. They're raw leads, they're marketing qualified leads, they're closed contracts, they're boxes shipped, cases shipped, invoices sent. These are things that your team actually controls. And we need so many of them in order to reach those fiscal numbers, right? It's the score that while we're playing the game. And so the 3HAG is a way for a team to collaborate on where they want to be, like reach out and touch 3 years from now, but knowing that it's lined up to your 10 to 30 year goal. And it really brings alive the BHAG for us. And then our team, knowing we were going to end up where we wanted to be, in our world, then we knew what our stepping stone, which was just pared down, scoped down. We could get our arms around it. We knew how to, actually map a path to it and think about it in a bus. So if you're driving from Seattle, let's say, to Boston, and you're going to have to stop along the way, it's a long trip. people will lose interest. So maybe we have to get from Seattle, and I'm making stuff up because I don't know which way I'd go, but let's throw out Chicago, right? It's a starting point, something to look forward to, a little closer. No, we can gas up and get some money and food and all those things. So that's the idea behind it, because most teams, most organizations have a 1-year plan, and we call it a 1HAG, a 1-year highly achievable goal that we've built a plan around. Every team has one. And yes, we even have a 90-day plan called a QHAG. It's your quarterly highly achievable goal. So it's breaking it down to ensure that we can see it all, but it's not one person writing the plan down and saying, you have to do this, you have to do that. It's setting out where do we need to go and having the team together collaborate on how we're going to get there.
I love that. And I feel like even outside of the kind of entrepreneurial or business side of things, I feel like it could be also very applicable in one's personal life as well. Like I'm thinking about the goals I wrote down, January 1st, like every other person in this whole world. And I was writing down a whole list, like 3 pages of things that I wanted to do and I wanted to be by the end of the year. But I didn't really have a game plan. I didn't have I didn't see what I would look like in like 10 years or 3 years or 1 year. It was like, within this 1 year, I want to do all of this change. I guess my question with that is like, how have you seen the 3HAG and the BHAG being used in a more like personal setting? And how
Oh, I love that, because as we started putting this in place in our business and for our teams, what we did individually is we created what we called a personal 1-page plan. And on that personal 1-page plan was our personal core purpose, our 10-year goal, right? Our 3-year goal. And then we broke it down into we tried to actually in categories like family, fitness, or health, faith, like all those things. Like, what are those things? What are those key things? And then we broke it down into 1 year. Where do we want to be? And then we broke it down at the bottom of the page was, what did we have to do in the next 90 days to move ourselves forward? And so we use this personally. I was like, I'm so driven that way. And I was like, this works in business. Why wouldn't it work for me personally? So I do it. I still do it today. I'm retired, been retired for 10 years. I still do this today. Every 90 days, I work it. I carry it around with me. And then, the funny thing is our team did it. And in our team, we believed in 90-day coaching reviews. So a 2-way review between, a team member and a leader. And so we could provide feedback to coach them forward, both in the business, but also in their development. And they could give us feedback as leaders on how we were doing and having knowledge of our plans as well, which is sort of cool. It's unusual, but cool. That's sort of the way that works. And then, funny enough, many people laugh that I did this with my own kids, but since my kids could write, anything, they would fill out in September, because that's the beginning of the school year, their personal 1-page plan, all the way through to still doing it today, right? And just, I can remember my daughter I guess she would have been 7. She's like, Mom, in 10 years, I'm going to be like graduating high school. I'm like, wow. So I'm going to graduate high school in 10 years. And then when she was 12, 11, 12, in 10 years time, I'll be graduating university. She's also, a really focused athlete. So like sort of lining up, and this is, under 10, she's like, well, in 10 years time, okay, I'm going to be at these world championships. At another 10, I'm going to be here. But it's just interesting that what that allowed a person to think about. And that's what, that 10-year allows us to, Herodiacious is wild. Like, what do you want to do 10 years from now? What that is. And you just keep doing it, right? What are those goals? And frankly, you get better at it, both personally and professionally, you get better at it.
I absolutely love it. I think it reminds me of, I was talking to someone and he was like, I was talking to him about how I felt really burnt out at the end of last year. And I was like, how do I work on this? And he was like, you put together plans for the Entrepreneurs Network, for example. You treat it like a startup because it is your baby. You need to start treating yourself like a startup. Like you need like the fuel, you need the same organization and the same structures in order for anything that your startup produces to work well. And I was like, whoa, this makes so much sense. Like I am my own business. Like I need to make sure that I'm still in shop, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I love it. It does. It makes so much sense. And the opportunity you have here and what you can do really depends on how big you want to think.
100%.
Right.
I loved how you also spoke about how you were doing these goal setting activities with your daughter at such a young age. I think that's so amazing. Like I remember at least the school that Weilyn and I were at, we did goals starting super young. We did these SMART goals, and it was everything from like being able to read for 25 minutes straight to like these sorts of things. And of course it was tedious when you were 7, like, what is this? This doesn't mean any much. But I think once you connect with the goal, and it seems like with your daughter, it was through her athleticism and her competitions, that's when it feels meaningful. So on a more personal note, how do you think your idea of BHAG and these hairy, audacious goals as a mother was modeled to your daughter, and how do you think she picked that up?
All 3 of my kids would say like, yep, every September, here came the But they also know that when we set goals, it's as you said earlier, we can write them down. Yeah. But it's really how do we break them down to make those little steps towards them. And I loved how you talked about connecting to the numbers, right? So even laying out at 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old, right? And now they're still writing their goals down every year and planning them for the end of the year. Like it's something that's ingrained, which is great, but I had that as well. But I think the example, right, it's really key. They knew I was doing it too, right? And they're like watching and stepping. And as they got older, I think they're even probably more attuned to that, both, professionally, right? And personally too, in athletics. I still always set goals athletic wise each and every year, pick a race, make sure, okay, I'm going to do that race. I have a coach for that. I have my goals. I have my 3-year goals. I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm like a master's unprofessional athlete, right? Beer league athlete, but it's still really fun. So I really think the examples, but also the feedback you get, on that coaching through. Now, when I look at, all 3 of my kids, in school and in sport or, theater and singing, they've all set goals all along the way. And they're connecting it back to, like, I know my middle son is a national level trampolinist, right? At that level, been stuck at that level for the last 2 years for the pandemic, because there hasn't been many competitions. And so, one of the goals is to like get to the next level, right? There's still some more levels. And it's been like, is at the point going, I don't know if it's even worth it anymore, because there's just no competitions to mobilize to the next level. And I said, yeah, I totally understand that, because when you set your goals and through the pandemic for the last 2 years, all of us have had goals shift, right? Goals shift and have to deal with it and reset. And a lot of people go, oh, it takes so much time to write a goal and a detailed plan for it not to come true. And I always go, oh, if you could just write it down in a detailed way, just it's so human, because of the connection and because of the feedback, that positive feedback you get, and the opportunity to, I always say evolve. I don't use the word change. I always say evolve. We can evolve, and I use iterate a lot. So we can iterate the plan. As long as we've set out the goals, it's not going to go exactly as, if I take my son, for instance, as he planned. He had that goal for last year. He set it again for this year. He's on path, right? And I said, fine. Does your longer term goal, is that blown out? No. Okay, so we're taking a different path. And I think that's where goals and people get lost in goal setting. And when, someone else made a comment to me, because we were joking about my kids doing personal 1-page plans as soon as they could write it down, whatever it was. And they said, what were you thinking? I said, well, I was just thinking that if I could help them understand how to set a goal and break it down, and that's what building a business is, that's what being an entrepreneur is, that's what life's all about, then it would allow them a repeatable way actually mindset wise think about this. And I think of what they do today and where their goals are now. It's just, yeah, it blows me away. They're probably more goal oriented than I was at that age because they've done this for so long.
I love building that habit. I feel like so many people, you know, like from a young age, I feel like I sat down like every year and like wrote down some like random goals, but being able to connect it to a longer vision, I think is so important. I can only imagine if at 7 years old, I was like, wow, like in 10 years, I'm going to graduate, I'm going to graduate high school. Like, what's that going to look like? How do I work towards that goal? Like, I imagine I would be at a very different place in my life if I had done that. And like, that's so interesting to think about. So I guess my next question is just like if parents or like even groups of friends like want to implement this into their own life, what is some advice you would say to give other parents too?
Yeah. So, well, the number one thing I would say, because that template I shared out with everyone, it's off metronomeunited.com. There's a resource portal. It's totally complimentary. Everything that I've ever done and any tool I've ever used is there. It sounds crazy, but if you're listening in and you're wondering, how do you get started? I simply, we picked September because it was the beginning of a school year. And for a person of that age, it was easy to have the discussion around they're starting a new grade, right? Mm-hmm. 7, you're in grade 2. Like, think about that. You're in grade 2. So 10 years from now, and they're like 10 years from now, like, you're counting 2, 3, it's just interesting, but you're just to set goals and to help someone else set goals and to actually lay this out. It's number one, remembering that there's a start of a time period, whatever it is. Number 2 is ask the questions. And there's really some simple questions. It's even when you ask a 7-year-old, so what's your purpose? What do you think a 7-year-old will say? They'll say, well, they're starting grade 2. I really want to, some will say, I really want to be a great friend. My purpose is to do well. Like, it's really interesting to ask young people these questions. It's from the mouth of babes. Yes, this comes out. I mean, I learned a ton. Could probably write a book on that. And then the second thing is, context of 10 years to a 7-year-old, that is eternity.
Yeah.
Right. But if you could put in the context, most will write down, oh, I'll be in grade 12. I'll be graduating 10 years from now. And they put in context of what they know, right? Others have, there's lots of 7-year-olds that are really good at things and they've already got plans and vision. It's amazing. And then, because it's a question. So 10 years from now, well, where do you think you're going to be? They'll write it down. They'll draw a picture. They'll do whatever. How about 3 years from now? What's 3 years look like? And they go, grade 3, grade 4, and they're like, oh, well, I'm going to be a really good reader. I'm going to be good at, it's just so, but it's just training them to think that way. And then you go 1 year from now, okay, grade 2, where are you going to get at the end of grade 2? And they'll have an answer, which is what, if you don't ask the question, there is no answer. So by asking, and it's True. Like, as a parent, it's the discipline of just, like, I was rhythmical, like, I think as my kids got older, into 10, 11, 12, 13, they're like, oh God, here we go. Right. But I just leave it out on their desk in their room. I'd print out the piece of paper, I put it down, and they'd do it or not, but most would do it and put it up on their room and put it up on their wall.
I love
right?
it.
So it's visible.
No, absolutely. I think there's so many wonderful lessons that come out of the BHAG, which is why transitioning sort of into our next topic about being a best-selling author, you taking these lessons, putting it into a book, sharing it with the world. And I want to kind of dive into a little bit about that. Firstly, who is your book for? And then with that as well, let's say you find who the book is for. They buy this book. Many of us, for ego reasons or not, have books sitting on our shelves. Yes. Why is this book going to pop out to them? Why will someone take this book out and read it?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I never thought I'd ever have one book, let alone 3 books. That was just not even in my wheelhouse of thought when I retired. And I didn't think I would coach either. And, the reason why, I'll give you the reason why we wrote the book, who it's for, and then really, where it's come from. So the reason the book was written is that as a coach, I could only help 6 companies at a time. Like that's all the impact I could make. And we were making great impact. So more people, I was like, okay, well, this is working. Why don't I just write down the methodology from a CEO's perspective? And we wrote The Metronome Effect. That was the first book, street version of here's how you do it. Here's how we did it. Here's the prescription. And it's written for, and every one of these books is written for a leader, a CEO who is desperate to achieve their goals. Whatever they are, it doesn't really matter, but they're stuck, right? I was desperate. 4 years into my first business, we had this huge opportunity. I felt we were stuck. We weren't getting to where we needed to go, and we're leaving opportunity on the table, and we weren't following through on winning our business Olympics. So these books are written for because I didn't want anyone to be as desperate as I was, and I was desperate. I read 4 books a week for 24 months looking for these books. I just wanted it to be I'm good, at a prescription. I'll do exactly what you say. I'm that desperate. And the funny thing is, I say it that way, but leaders who find these books and find this methodology, it pulls together every other book they've read about business, right? It pulls together all the what of all the thought leaders. Metronomics, because I've read, and my team and I have read so many books, we're like, these are all great whats, and they're all over the place. A little bit of team cohesiveness, a little bit of culture, a little bit of cash, a little bit of strategy. It's like whack-a-mole, right? It's like, oh my gosh, how do you keep up with that? How do you balance it? And so the thing why it pops off the shelf to so many CEOs like myself is because it gives Metronomics gives an actual timeline of where you can be by when, what you need to do, how you need to do it, preparation, what you need to do with your team, the homework, and connects all the thought leaders, the culture, the cohesiveness, the human system, strategy, execution, cash, coaching, scaling, all of it into one framework. So Metronomics is a repeatable framework, right? It's that playbook. It provides an open playing field for transparent, how you want to play with one another, and that team connected score. And then, fully, if I'm transparent, Metronomics, the other leg of it, is a coach who understands the system. The thing that I talk about, and a lot of people go, oh, you're just saying that because you're a coach. No, I'm saying it because I was coached.
Yeah.
The coach, like my first business, it took us 5 years to get onto this path. And then we were from year 5 to 10, built and sold it, right? That's what our goal was. The second company was 0 to 3 years, 12 quarters. And, we were the top 3 deals on mid-market deals on Wall Street that year. 60 times top line we sold for value of the organization. It wasn't that we got lucky twice. It was the framework, the system, that repeatability, and the coach too. The coach was key. I was very lucky to work with a coach to, remove the blind spots, open it up. And so the way the books go is Metronome Effect was written from a CEO perspective. 3HAG Way was written because people are asking me about this 3HAG, meaning coaches, and could we use it? And so I gave it out to everyone. They used it and got the same success that I got in my companies and with the companies I coach. I'm like, oh, wow, this is cool. And they're like, not many people know about it. So that gives you the strategy system and all the reasons why, pulls together the top strategic thought leaders into one system that nobody's done, right? And then Metronomics pulls together the balance of the soft edge systems, right? Culture, cohesion, the team, balancing it up with strategy, execution, and cash. And the most interesting thing is that the 3HAG, we go all the way back around to that. Why would that pop off for anybody listening in who may or may have one and hasn't really turned it on the behavioral side, or doesn't have one and is curious? A 3HAG is absolutely human. Metronomics is absolutely a human flow in how we grow a team to win, right? Any team, there's lots of teams going to win the business Olympics, but any team to win at anything they've set out to. It's a team sport. Business is a team sport.
What I love about the methods and your decision to write the books is that it really opens up the playing field. Like I imagine a lot of minority founders can pick up the book and really start working towards winning that Olympics. A lot of women entrepreneurs can now have access to just top quality like resources and actual plans, because there is so much noise out there when it comes to business. I know whenever I talk to my dad about like reading business books, he's like, I get through one chapter and it's like, okay, I get it, but like, how do I implement it? Like there's so many examples, but it's all like fluff, right? Like as long as you get the main point, everything else is fluff. And I feel like the books, from the way you talk about it and also just like reading the Three Hag Way too, like they are really just like realistic things you can implement, regardless if that's whether your own life or, you know, the business side of things. So definitely agree with that. Just a quick other question. What is something surprising that you learned from writing a book?
So, you know, the interesting thing about writing a book, I wrote a book to share, okay, here's how we did it. Please take it and make it yours, right? So, but I think the most amazing thing about writing a book is, I almost feel selfish saying this, is that the amount of learning that the author does is more than you ever expected. The amount of learning you do. And so I can remember sitting down and Metronomics came out of, we have 85 coaches around the world, right? 85 coaches around the world are metronome coaches, use the framework. Amazing, right? But it was, you know, Three Hag attracted more coaches and want to be certified. And I was like, yeah, like you don't need to be certified in it. It's all in the book. It's written down. Metronomics was written because the coaches were like, there's something more you're doing. And I was like, I don't think so. Like, you know, everything I know. I'm sure you're doing it, you know, to get the outcome. They're like, we're not getting the exact same outcomes. You seem to do it in less time and you get a bigger outcome. And I was like, interesting. And so part of the convincing of writing Metronomics and, you know, what's the one thing, you know, an author takes away is that experience, that me committing to the coaches going, okay, I'm going to write it down. I'll write it all down. I'll see if I can, I don't know. But my own personal growth went from here to here for sure. And just having the awareness and the step back and getting it out of my head, because a lot of these things we did inherently, like we learned them. Sometimes I didn't even know I was doing them. Right. So it forced me to like, you know, get out of my head, look at the data, look at the success we had and why there was success. And so writing the books, anyone who ever wants to write a book, I always say, yes, you must do it, whether you publish it or not, because the level of learning that you'll have on that topic goes to the next level.
Oh my goodness. I love that. Oh, so many things. Weilyn and I have talked a lot about writing books. So we definitely have that bug inside of us. But I also like how you talked about thinking retrospectively and like unlearning sometime. I think just this is like a general thing in life. Sometimes the hardest thing is not learning, it's unlearning. From like social things to like academics to just like ways things should be, but in reality they shouldn't. So love that you touched on that, because I think that's such a powerful thing. So I think I kind of got a sense of this by saying, if you want to write a book, just write it. But would you have any tips for aspiring authors who are looking to maybe publish their book and share it with the world?
Yeah. So what I would say to that, and maybe it's just how I think myself, I think in pictures, right? So I think in pictures. And so one of the things, and this sounds ridiculous, what I'm going to say, but if you really want to write a book, and a lot of people get stuck writing the book. So what I would recommend, and even what I did with Metronomics, is I actually PowerPointed the whole book.
Interesting.
I PowerPointed it in pictures.
I love it. It's not even a picture book.
No, there's lots of pictures in that book. There's like 103 pictures. I just want to say it loud, but I just want and it was to tell the story that I wanted to tell. And it was way easier to move it around than not. I also worked with on all 3 books. And I didn't work with the same one each time, but I found a really great, in my world, it was a business editor who didn't write the book, but could help. Like once I PowerPointed, I think they thought I was crazy, honestly. Like they're like, you what? Like there's 300 slides, right? And I could tell the story and I recorded the story to get them to make sure they understood the story. And then we went back and forth for a little while to structure it. And one of the things, the structure of Metronomics in particular, it's a thick, it's like, I can't, it's double the other size of the books, right? Like it's thick. It's the size of it is like a good, like almost like get in there, write in it, pictures, graphics. But the reason why it was done that way, we wanted to have a story. So anybody reading it could find themselves in the story and experienced it. We wanted to make sure people knew where it came from. It didn't come from research, it came from experience. And the last thing is we wanted to make sure that people were like, yeah, like the how. I like that. The how am I ever going to get that going? It's there. And so the structure, a business editor can help you, think about the audience and what's the structure that's going to, really get their attention so you can make the impact that you're looking to with the book. And so, yeah, it's hard to write a book on your own, for sure. There's no doubt. It's like writing your master's thesis by yourself. It's hard. Well, you have a graduate advisor.
Yeah, I have to write a senior thesis at Princeton. So that's definitely like on my mind. I think it's like 80 to 100 pages of like research. And I feel like that's going to be like my first step into hopefully the book world. But Ali and I have been really looking forward to kind of just like dipping our toes in something new. But we have a couple of just rapid fire concluding thoughts for today. We've talked a little bit about like winning your business Olympics. I want to ask specifically, how does Metronomics help you win that business Olympics?
Yes, Metronomics helps you win the business Olympics because it will force you to write down what that is, what the win is, being your 3 HAG, and it will force you just inherently to actually build the plan. It's as soon as you write it down, it might be wrong, but as humans, we don't want to be wrong. So it'll just start you on your journey.
I love that.
Totally right. Absolutely. We don't want to be wrong, but sometimes it's the best thing for us. Okay.
Yes.
Next thing. Why should a college student read this book? And why is the BHAG and Metronome super relevant for college age students like Weilyn and myself?
Whoa, that's a huge question, but I'll do it as rapid fire because I don't want you to come out of school the way I came out of school and not having the visibility into how to bring my ideas and make an impact. This is all about the how. I work with students all over the world. I work with entrepreneurship centers. I am all about this because I have a business degree and I didn't know how to do it.
Wow, that is convincing. And so quick, lighthearted questions. What is something that you are grateful for today?
Oh, I am so grateful. I'll tell you, I chair a board of a large company here in Canada, and I had the opportunity to meet with half the board today, and I'll meet with the other half tomorrow. But I'm just so grateful for the cohesiveness we have on the board and their feedback. Actually, it was a big feedback day. That's what I was doing before now, and every last piece of feedback is important, and it's important we listen. So I'm so grateful for that engagement and energy.
100%. Feedback is everything. Like it's frustrating almost to get no feedback. Like when something's good, like, okay, like that's unhelpful. You're like, tell me it sucks. Tell me it's terrible. Rip it in pieces. Tell me your feedback. I completely resonate with that. Secondly, what is something that you love about yourself today?
Oh, I think the biggest thing is that I get to get up every day and focus in on doing what I want to do, saying yes to help leaders and entrepreneurs grow. I'm just so grateful for that and thankful that that's what I get to do every day. Every day I decide to do that. It's awesome.
I love that. And what does it mean to you to be an entrepreneur?
An entrepreneur, what it means is you get to make decisions to what you want to impact and figure out how to do it. And I am like, oh, so grateful for the last 20, I don't even want to say it out loud, 25 plus years of having that opportunity and working with people who believe the same thing. It's been an incredible journey.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing today. There are so many just nuggets of joy and precious moments in this podcast that I know both myself and Weilyn personally, but also all our listeners will really, really, really benefit from. So thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome. I loved it. Thank you. Thank you for having the courage to have the podcast and get it going.
Thank you.
That means a lot to us.
That means a lot to us. So where can we follow you? Where can we connect with the BHAG? Where can we get the book? Where can we learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, so our main website is metronomeunited.com. Like everything we talk about in any of the 3 books, there's a full reader resource portal. Lots of people are in there downloading, leveraging. There's also a software platform. It's called Metronome Growth Systems. And it actually supports, is what we call the open playing field. And it supports everything we've talked about today around the goals, the structure, the strategy. It really leverages that and allows people to get in there and to work with their team to grow their company. So metronomegrowthsystems.com, metronomeunited.com, and then please link into me. Search me out. It's Shannon Susko, and I love connecting with people, learning about what other people are doing. It's a way to keep us, really making sure we're looking around because there's so much out there. And if you have questions, send them my way. LinkedIn's a great way. Our website's a great way. Please don't hesitate to connect.
I love that.
I love it.
And with that, that's a wrap on this podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you so much, Shannon, for joining us today.
So welcome. Thank you.
That wraps it up for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope hearing from Shannon about her journey with her children as well as how she works in Metronomics.
If you like this podcast, subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening now. Even better, leave us a 5-star review and share your thoughts on the podcast.
Want to get in touch? Send a question or suggest a guest? We read every one of our emails and DMs, so please feel free to reach out to us via nihao@entrepreneursnetwork.com or at the Entrepreneurs Network on LinkedIn and Instagram. You can also check out the show notes for more ways to chat.
The Entrepreneurs Podcast is just one of the podcast shows under the Entrepreneurs Network. Each podcast show explores its own niche community of women entrepreneurs. To explore our shows, head over to our website, entrepreneursnetwork.com. Thank you to our amazing team at the Entrepreneurs Network, especially today's episode's lead producers,